Hello, I'm Jana and welcome back to the Crafty Corner. Today is day 7 of Craftmas. Today we're going to be creating a few shakers. We're going to be using the die set retro oven and we're going to be turning some Idea-ology ephemera into some shakers as well. If you'd like to see which supplies we're going to be using, go ahead and pause here. All right, let's head over to the Crafty Corner. Today, we're going to have some fun creating some shakers with the Tim Holtz Retro Oven die set. I have not yet created anything with this die set, and I love the look. Now, the die set that I got came with some of these really cool shaker windows. And of course, we're going to be creating shakers and having all sorts of fun shakety bits to go on the inside. Now, I already pre-cut my die pieces and I stashed them in this really convenient, crafty zippered pouch by Simon Says Stamp. I absolutely love these and they're such an easy way to transport supplies when you're on the go or store parts and pieces for a project. Okay, so we have all of our pieces for the shaker. And I'm just going to take a moment and sort these out so that I will be all set to start the building process. Now, as we look at some of these shapes, we're going to notice that there are some lines already etched onto the pieces of paper. These are going to be some of the outlines that are going to help guide us to build the retro oven. So, we're just going to sort these out and start building. I have die cut these pieces from some of the Idea-ology Tim Holtz craft stock, and I've also used some of the heavy black cardstock as well. And for the cookie pieces, I've got a mixture of the Idea-ology craft stock and some plain craft paper. So we're just sorting out the last few pieces here, and then we're going to be setting aside all of these little cookie cutouts. They are so fun and they're going to make great shaker pieces. So I'm just going to pull apart these shaker windows and I'm just going to divide these up so that I will be all set to add the shaker elements after all of the die assembly has been completed. Okay, so we're just trying to space these out as much as possible and just have a good variety in each shaker window. Okay, pretty good. Next, I am going to pull in some of the distressed mica flakes. I might as well build all of these shaker elements while I'm here. So we're just taking a pinch or two of the mica flakes and dropping that into each of the window. And next we're going to grab some distress glitter. Now I've got this giant bottle of distress glitter. This is going to be absolutely perfect for adding some sparkle to these shaker bits. Okay, so again, just taking a pinch or so and adding that in. We don't need a whole lot because those cookie pieces are meant to be the highlight of the shaker. Okay, that is pretty good. Now I'm just going to stack these and we will set them aside until we're done building the oven. So let's go ahead and bring in the pieces for our first set. So I'm going to set the die nearby so that I've got an easy reference to look at as I'm building the retro oven. Now, most of these pieces I have already attached with some double-sided sticky tape. And right now, we're just going to work on lining things up and dropping them in place. This craft piece is going to be kind of my base or backing, and it's also going to act as a sandwich piece when we go to add the shaker window in. But right now, I want to really focus on the front of the oven. So first, we're going to be taking this long strip, which is the stove front where the dials are going to be placed. As we can see, we've got some little circles here, and these are going to be the spots where the dials are going to be placed onto the front of the oven. And now we're going to add the display piece. This is going to be where the little thermometer gauge is. So I'll just take that and stick that right on here. There we go. Next, let's see. I think we're going to take some of the little end pieces and place them on the long side of the dial strip. So we got these cute little metallic-y pieces that are adding a nice shiny accent to the oven. Okay. Now let's go over here to the black cardstock. Ooh, nope, maybe not. Let's put down the foundation piece where the burners are going to go, because then we can jump into the items on the black cardstock and do those all at once. So this is the stove top where the burners are going to be placed. Okay, so we've got those neatly lined up. And this is going to be one of the trim pieces. This is more of the silver metallic cardstock. This is just kind of the line between the top of the stove and the next part that comes up. All right, so next we're going to take the burners and place them. Yep, that's going to work out pretty well. I'll place the other one here. Good. Now it's starting to look a bit more like a stove. Next, we're going to take the dial pieces and we'll stick them right onto the oven front. So if you ever have trouble taking the sheet off the back of the sticky adhesive piece, I would highly recommend using a die pick or a craft pick to pull those off, because I've definitely found if you don't have nails, it can be really hard to get those two pieces to separate when you are building a more in-depth die cut element. All right, so this would be the fourth dial, and we need to place one more. Good. Oh, those tiny pieces, they are really small, and that definitely takes an extra moment or two to get them off the back of the cardstock. Okay, so we have all our little dials in the front. Next, we're going to go in and add a few more accent pieces with the silver. This is like the handle of the oven on the front. And then there's some more trim pieces down at the base. I'm guessing near the base there might be a warming oven element. And that's what these silver pieces are probably delineating. All right, so just lining those up and sticking it down. Definitely the retro oven is a little bit more involved than some other die sets that I've used before, but I think it's absolutely worth it because it has such a great vintage feel, and all of the pieces work so well together, and you could customize this in any color you want. Okay, next we're going to be sticking the teeny tiny little spinner part onto the oven dial. It's like the little knobby bit that you'd use to turn the dial, and those are pretty small. So I did pull in a die pick to help me lift these up and place them. So just carefully sticking those down and then using a finger to press it so that we're going to make sure that nothing is going to lift off or wander away. Okay, good. And one more. There we go. So that would be almost everything. We need another silver piece to go across the top of the oven, another lovely silver accent. Okay, just sticking that down. Good. Okay, let's see. Do I have anything else to add on here? Nope. It is time to add the shaker element. So we're just going to flip the oven over, and we're going to put the shaker compartment through the cutout die, and then we can seal it into place. So we're removing the double-sided sticky adhesive because the back of that shaker window will be able to stick to this. And we'll just place that in there carefully, and I'm going to try really hard not to scatter all of these fun shaker elements. Kind of just working that around, and there we go. So I'm just going to press the oven onto the shaker window. And as you can see, there's another white ring going around the shaker. And I'm going to be sandwiching that with another piece of craft stock. So I'll just carefully line this up and place that over the sticky back of the red piece, and that's going to neatly sandwich our shaker window. Now I'm going to need another piece of paper to completely cover the back of this, since we're not putting this onto a card and this is going to be a freestanding element. So I'm pulling in some of the alcohol ink cardstock, and this is some of the brushed silver, and I think that's going to give us a really nice interior look of the oven. So just very quickly, I'm using the die pick to just roughly mark where I need to cut so that we can have backings for all three ovens. And now we're going to bring in the mini Tim Holtz tonic cutter and quickly cut our pieces out so we can adhese them to the back of the oven. And that silver, it's really going to give us a nice little subtle shine for the interior of the oven. Okay, good. Now I think we're going to use some collage medium to adhese this. So I'm just going to be running a line around the back part of the oven, around the cutout where the shaker window has been placed. And then we'll just stick the brushed silver cardstock on top. So we're just going to smush that out a little bit with my finger. If you don't want to use your finger, definitely a sponge works or a brush. But I find using fingers every now and then is just quicker and a little bit more efficient for time. All right, so just smoothing that out, moving that little bit of extra glue around, and that shaker is pretty much done. So we're just going to set that aside for now and move on to our next step. Let's go ahead and flip this over and see what we've got. Ooh, look at all those fun shakety bits. I love the addition of the sparkling mica and the distress glitter. That is giving such a great feel to this fun shaker. So this is shaker number 1 completed. I've got 2 more to make, so let's go ahead and put the rest of this on fast forward. Here are our 3 completed shakers with the Tim Holtz die set retro oven, and check out all of those fun shakety bits. I love the cookie cutouts. So fun and so festive. Next, we're going to be making some more shaker windows, and this time we're going to be using some Tim Holtz Idea-ology Christmas elements. Now, to create a background for these, I'm going to be using some Distress watercolor cardstock, and we're going to be altering this with some Distress spray stains and mica sprays. So, of course, giving that a good mist with the water, and we're going to be using some snow flurries and juniper berry. So we're going to give these a really good shake to make sure that we get all the sediment mixed in, and then we can start spritzing to create a lovely winter backdrop. First, I'm going to go in with some of the snow flurries, and we're going to give a few generous spritzes across our substrate. Then we're going to go in fairly sparingly with juniper berry. It's a really strong color, so I don't want to overwhelm snow flurries. Now we're going to dry and drip a little bit as we move our background and try to get that beautiful winter scene. Okay, I'm loving how the inks are moving. This is definitely giving me winter sky vibes, which is just what I'm going for. Now, as always, if we want the ink to move more, the best thing to do is to pick it up and move it, because the ink or the spray will not move on its own. So we have to move our paper. Okay, it's looking really good. Ooh, look at that sparkle. I love the shimmer of Distress Mica sprays. Probably one of my absolute favorite products for this year. So many new colors and so much sparkly goodness. Okay, so thinking this is just about dry, I'm just going to try to finish up these couple of corners that are still a little bit damp, and then we can resize these and use them for our shaker foundation. Okay, a little bit more on the side. Ooh, loving that background. That is going to be wonderful. Now, a very quick cleanup before moving on to our next step. A couple spritzes of water, taking our inky towel and clearing down the work surface. That way we are not working in sludge. Next, I need to measure out how much of this background I'm going to need for each of these frames. So I'm just going to kind of do a rough estimation, and we're going to use the media mat to give us a pretty good idea of what we need. It looks like we're going to need about 2.5 inches per section. So let's go ahead and bring in the mini tonic trimmer, and we're going to just trim that paper down so that we can fit it into our background. Okay, so double checking that measurement. The interior of that frame is 2.25 inches. So if I go for 2.5 inches, that should give me enough margin to place this behind our frame. All right, lining things up and slicing. I love the tonic mini trimmer. It is so convenient to just have on the table, and it doesn't take up a whole lot of space, so it's really easy to reach for whenever you're making small cuts. All right, that's 2. And let's go ahead and slice the other one. This will give us 3. Good. So we have all 3 of our backdrop pieces. And double checking on the frame. Beautiful. It fits. That is great. And these are going to make such a wonderful winter backdrop. But we're not done with these yet. We're going to be pulling in stamp set Festive Print. This is CMS 472. And from the set, we're going to be using some of these wonderful little trees. And that's just going to add a little bit more interest to our background. And for stamping, I have pulled in the Distress Archival Ink Rustic Wilderness. So I'm just grabbing a stamp block, and we're just going to put that on here. And we'll stamp this out onto our background. Okay, so taking the ink, tapping that out, making sure that we've got good coverage. And now we can just add those trees right onto our background. Okay, and firm pressure. There we go. Nice and simple. So I'm just going to keep doing this, and we're going to be using both trees, and I'm going to try to do all 3 of these backgrounds simultaneously. So just taking the ink, stamping it down, and then moving on. I love this. Quick crafting is definitely one of my favorite. You get to see results really quickly. And repetition also means that when you're creating something, it eventually gets faster because you're doing the same thing again and again. Okay, taking that second tree, stamping that out. There we go. And this is moving along pretty quickly. So we're just going to keep on inking and stamping those trees. Oh, I love the print stamp this year. The Festive Print stamps are just so good. And they've got this wonderful kind of rustic look to them. Definitely a wonderful addition to the collection. Okay, just have a few more trees to stamp, and we should be able to wrap up these backgrounds. And I'm loving how vibrant the Rustic Wilderness is on these backgrounds. It's such a nice contrast to those blues, and it's really standing out quite nicely. Okay, looks like we've got about 2 more trees to stamp, and these should be done. Okay, and 1 more. Ink, stamp, pressure. There we go. And here are the finished backgrounds for our shakers. Next, we're going to be pulling in some foam tape. I have a pretty long roll of foam tape. This is about like an inch or maybe 3/4. But I'm going to be taking this and splitting it in half so that I can outline the frame of the cutout window. So for cutting, of course, we're pulling in the tonic snips, and I'm just roughly estimating before I'm cutting these in half, because if we cut these in half, then I can double layer them so that our shaker wall has pretty good height, because we need to make sure that our elements on the inside will have room to move. Okay, I've got that. And I'm just going to stick these together, and that's going to help create the wall and frame. For now, I'm just going to be cutting and stacking these foam pieces and placing them around the cutout frame. So let's go ahead and put the rest of this on fast forward as we build our frame for our shakety bits. Now we're going to be adding an acetate window to the back of our shaker. So I've already pre-cut down several pieces of acetate, and we're just going to take some collage medium and run that all the way around the frame. And then we can place our clear transparency on top of that. Good. All right, so we're just going to take this, we're going to smush that down, make sure that we've got good glue coverage. Now, if I cut the acetate a little bit too large, it's not going to be a big deal because I can always trim off any excess later. The main thing is to make sure that we don't get any glue ooze. All right, let's go ahead and do this same thing to our other two windows. So just taking the glue and again, running it all the way around the border before sticking down the clear transparency. I absolutely love batching elements. Just once you have the process, then it's really easy to just streamline things and kind of get a little bit of an assembly line going as you're creating elements. All right, that would be number 2. Let's bring in number 3. We're going to need some more glue. And then the clear piece of acetate. There we go. We have got 3 ready shaker windows. The next step will be to add in the foam and build up the wall so we can add our shakety elements. All right, bringing back that first one, and now I have all of those foam pieces ready to go. We're just going to peel off the backings and start building our wall. All right, so I'm just going to place this on the outside of the frame, and we're going to build that wall all the way around to contain the distress glitter and mica that we're going to be adding. So just turning this and adding things in. If pieces are a little bit too long, that's going to be easy enough to trim. But looks like we've got our measurements pretty good at the moment. Okay, we're going to do this side. That's good. And now the long piece. So just peeling off that backing. And we'll be able to line that up. All right, carefully making sure that we don't have any gaps. There we go. That would be our foam wall to contain all of our distress glitter and mica. Let's go ahead and take care of the rest of these while we're here. So we have all 3 of our walls ready. Now it's time to add the distress glitter. We're going to add some magical sparkle to each of these frames, and we're also going to drop in some of the distress mica flakes. So I'm just going to be taking about a pinch or 2 and adding that to each of these shakers. So much sparkly goodness. Okay. I think that's going to be pretty good. And now let's go ahead and get some of the mica flakes. So for the mica flakes, I'm going to be putting another pinch into each of these, probably a little bit more than the glitter because I want to go for kind of a chunky, shiny snow look for the shaker. Next, we're going to be placing our backgrounds on the back of this double-sided sticky adhesive foam. I've already taken the backing off, so all we have to do is carefully stick down each of these backgrounds. Okay. And one more. There we go. Now the shaker element is completely sealed up. Now, the next thing that I want to do is to add a background. This is just going to kind of camouflage all of the inner workings of the shaker. So I decided to go with some of the really pretty Tim Holtz worn wallpaper. And this is from the holiday collection. And this time, instead of using the trimmer, I'm just going to carefully cut around the frame using the tonic snips. Ooh, and here's our first look at the shaker. I love the contrast between the blue and the red with the green, and then we've got the snowfall coming down. That is really, really pretty. Absolutely loving that. And this was a fairly easy shaker to put together, creating a background, creating the foam wall, and then just sticking everything together and adding those extra bits of sparkle. I love the ephemera from the Idea-ology Christmas collection. There are always so many good pieces, and they're so fun to make with. Okay, so we're going to be doing the same thing for the other shakers. And let's go ahead and put this on fast forward. Here are our 3 completed shakers. I love the mica and the glitter in here. That just adds such a perfect snowy element. And here are the 3 retro oven shakers as well. Today we've created 2 different types of shakers. One using a prefabricated shaker window, and the other one we completely made from scratch using foam tape and acetate. But I love how all of these came out. They all have some unique personality and, of course, have got a wonderful vintage vibe. Thank you so much for joining me here today at the Crafty Corner for some fun holiday creative fun. And until next time, happy crafting.